It is hour 2 of the game. Game after work. Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. AJ still, he's been celebrating around the building the last couple of days because he is now officially 1-0 in Stump the Shaw. I got more questions in today. I got more questions in today from listeners. I'm very excited about.
So Brandon Peoples, our news director, was telling me that he got a question in this morning that he sent over to you guys, and then he immediately deleted the email so I wouldn't see it if I go into the K-Man email.
It was also, but I know it was also sent to Troy, so
I
make sure you get it, AJ.
Yeah, I wisely just stayed away from the answer of it when I saw what it was.
I have enough that I don't need to use that because I'm going to do like one every time we play.
So what you're saying is people are really into this game.
I mean, people are sending in questions after 2 requests. So.
You know, it'll be nice when we finally actually get somebody to come in here to try to challenge the Shaw. And I'm not being cocky.
He just called himself the Shaw. Who do you think you are, the Fort?
Wow.
What I'm saying is I would love it if we...
You notice there is one of the 3 of us that isn't putting a V in front of his name.
A V? Did you say V?
A V.
Oh, a V.
I mean, the Fort, the Shaw. I mean, come on.
I earned the in front of my name in high school. I didn't give it to myself.
It's the Twitter handle at Mitch the Fort.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm still trying to change that. I'm trying to get just Mitch Fortner, at Mitch Fortner. But some guy in College Station, Texas, big A&M fan, who has at Mitch Fortner. And I've offered money. I've DM'd him many times, not many, but twice. That I'd sent him some money for that handle, and he never got back to me. He never tweets. He's tweeted once in the last 12 months. So, whatever. One of these days.
You should keep it. Mitch the Fort. I like it.
Maybe he'll be inactive for long enough that, like, Twitter, like, Elon Musk will see that this guy's not using his account.
Kick him off of it.
See, what you got to do is you got to spend the, like $10 on the blue check mark, and then you'll get it. No,
ask Troy.
It's 8.
It's 8?
It's 8. And the only reason I have it is...
for TweetDeck.
Yep, you got it.
We'll take a look at Big 12 football the first 3 weeks and go over the some of the kickoff times and TV destinations. There's one that kind of cracks me up. That has to do with a non-conference game. It just seems it's weird.
It looks weird. I get it.
It's a weird marriage between a game and a TV channel. But we'll get to that later on. We are now pleased to be joined from Fayetteville, Arkansas, because of course we have K-State baseball coming up tomorrow night. Pregame 6:30. Hopefully, weather pending doesn't get in the way. The Cats taking on Louisiana Tech in their first game of an NCAA regional in Fayetteville, Arkansas. K-State's first trip to a regional in 11 years. Learn a little bit about Fayetteville, Arkansas. Learn a little bit about the Arkansas Razorbacks. We are now joined by the managing editor of Best of Arkansas Sports, Andrew Hutchinson. Now joins us here on the game. Andrew, really appreciate your time. We got to start with a little bit of basketball talk because it wasn't long ago that us K-State fans were sweating it when it came to Jerome Tang because he was entertaining the idea and listening to the folks in Fayetteville on potentially becoming the new head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks in men's basketball. Do you think Razorback fans would have loved to have Jerome Tang as their head coach?
I think it really varied depending on who you were talking to. I mean, I think there were some people that liked the idea of it. They thought he was a good option. I know there was some split feelings on, if it was going to be Chris Beard. You have the whole off-the-court stuff, and you think, oh, well, Jerome Tang's, better, maybe person than that. And then, of course, Will Wade was an option. You're like, well, maybe go get, Jerome Tang. So, I mean, it was kind of depending on who you asked. I mean, you could ask 100 different fans, and you'd probably have 30 choosing this guy, 30 choosing that, and 30 another, and then 10 random people. And I guess it all worked out because I think Arkansas fans are pretty fired up about getting John Calipari. That was a stunner to say the least. Even here in Arkansas, it was not something we kind of saw coming. It just kind of was a classic example of Jerome Tang and Chris Beard and Will Wade all being used as a smokescreen for the real candidate that ended up being John Calipari.
I remember seeing videos on social media of fans showing up at the airport, Coach Cal is shaking hands, and had Arkansas fans ever reacted to a hire like that before?
Oh yeah, they've shown up at the airport before and everything like that. I think there was excitement, maybe not as much, but I think that the excitement surrounding Calipari was probably more than usual. This is the SEC. I know people probably outside the SEC get tired of hearing that, but people do go a little bit crazy. So it wasn't unprecedented to be at the airport, but the theatrics of everything was very much a product of it being John Calipari, Hall of Fame coach. That was a crazy time. I'm not going to lie. I was stunned and couldn't believe it. It's still weird seeing John Calipari with the Razorback gear on, going and recruiting for the Razorbacks. It takes a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, that was pretty weird to see Coach Cal at Kentucky for so long now wearing a different team's colors. But speaking of recruiting, Jerome Tang doesn't end up in Arkansas. Meanwhile, though, he's recruiting guys out of the portal from Arkansas to try to come to K-State. We didn't get Khalif Battle. That was like the one player that I know us fans were really wanting to come to K-State, but instead getting Bay Fall. I mean, is there anything you can share with us about Bay Fall? Anything we should know?
Yeah, Bay Fall is an incredibly talented player, very raw. That's probably the reason he didn't play a whole lot this past year. Is he's a guy that needed to, gain some strength in a college weight program. A guy that needed to kind of get used to the physical play of major college basketball. Incredibly athletic. He's a guy that's going to block shots and make very impressive. He can rebound the ball, make very impressive plays down around the glass. But he was a guy that definitely needed to develop. And I'm going to be very anxious to see kind of how he develops at Kansas State because I think the potential is there. We just really didn't get to see a whole lot of it because he's still, as I said, very raw.
Now with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, how does that change the Arkansas rival pecking order?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. It changes from fan to fan. There is no obvious rival like you do at some places. I think if you ask the older generation, Texas is still the number one rival because of the old Southwest Conference days. But if you ask maybe a fan that's maybe my age, I'm 30, people would probably say LSU when it comes to football, and it kind of varies from sport to sport. In basketball, it's Kentucky because you had those great matchups with Nolan Richardson in charge. In the '90s. In baseball, probably LSU. Ole Miss is probably up there. I know that they're really pushing in football this Missouri rivalry, and it's been resisted by a lot of Arkansas fans because it's been pushed on them so much. They replaced the LSU Black Friday game with Missouri. Plus, to be quite honest, Missouri's kicked Arkansas's butt most of the time the last few years. And so it's kind of hard to be a rivalry whenever one side dominates the other. And I think that irks Arkansas fans because they think Arkansas as a program is better than Missouri, but hasn't played out that way the last few years. And you throw in the fact that Eli Drinkwitz, the Missouri head coach, is an Arkansas native, and they've had a few Arkansas players go up there. They recently signed the number one player from the state of Arkansas, Courtney Crutchfield, to play wide receiver up there. To me, it could develop into a major rivalry, but there's still going to be the people that view Texas as more, LSU as more. Again, it just kind of depends on who you talk to.
Well, Andrew, the main reason we have you on this afternoon is to talk about the NCAA tournament regional that Arkansas is hosting down there in Fayetteville. K-State is a 3 seed. Will be playing there tomorrow in the night game against Louisiana Tech, and I think there's some pretty good chances that K-State will run into Arkansas in this regional. Obviously, the Razorbacks are very good. They're the 5th number 1 overall seed hosting. If they move on to the super regional, they're going to be guaranteed to host. What would you say is the story of Arkansas baseball this year that K-State fans should know about?
I think the story of the year has been the pitching. They have been a dominant pitching team. The offense has really struggled, more so than we expected. They thought this offense was going to be better based on the guys they brought in from the portal, guys they had coming back after having good years last year, and just hasn't quite panned out that way. But the pitching has been good enough to carry them to an SEC West title, to a number 5 overall seed. Hagen Smith has been a massive part of that. Hagen Smith has been probably the best pitcher in college baseball this year. He's already SEC Pitcher of the Year. He's incredible. I think one of the storylines this weekend is when is he going to pitch? Dave Van Horn declined to revealed his plans this morning, opting to wait until later in the day. By the time people listen to this, maybe we know who the starting pitcher is, but as of now, we don't know. So, Kansas State, if they get matched up with Arkansas on Saturday, could run into Hagen Smith, and I would not envy that position because Hagen has been so good this year, so consistent. So I think that's probably kind of been the story. If you want an optimistic view, is the pitching. Some Arkansas fans would probably tell you the story has been the scuffling offense that could potentially cost them, a trip back to Omaha.
Andrew, the word on the street is that the atmosphere at Baum-Walker Stadium is one of the best in the nations. Would you say those rumors are true?
Absolutely, especially in the postseason. I encourage fans to look up video of the 2021 regional against Nebraska when Charlie Welch hit a home run late in the game to take the lead or extend the lead. And that was as bonkers of a venue as I've ever been a part of, including Bud Walton Arena, including Razorback Stadium. It's an incredible atmosphere. You'll have 12,000, pushing 13,000 people jam-packed in here. It's going to be a great time, great atmosphere, and I encourage if people are making the trip down to Fayetteville to get there early. You might not have to worry about that for the game against on Friday. But you will, if they get matched up against Arkansas, have to worry about parking and things like that because it's going to be wild. It's going to be a fun time. They love their baseball down here.
Now I know we could potentially run into some rain down there, but Arkansas does have the 2:00 game on a Friday. Is that a concern at all about people showing up? Is this still going to be jam packed?
It'll still be jam packed, and I mean that the rain is part of the strategy there. Dave Van Horn has been very open about it, saying that they want that early game to ensure that the game gets in because they may only be able to get one game in tomorrow. I've been kind of looking at the forecast; it doesn't look encouraging, but if they only get one game in, you want it to be your game. So now Kansas State and Louisiana Tech are having to potentially play a doubleheader or whatever on Saturday. So. Hopefully the weather doesn't factor into it. Hopefully we're able to get both games in tomorrow, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. And the weather, the time, nothing's going to keep Arkansas away. A lot of people will save their vacation days and use them for the regional. I know a lot of people that do that, so it's good. It's still going to be packed. I know there's already folks camped out and have been for a day or so outside what they call the hog pen, the outfield area where it's just berm seating. People have been camping out there already, so. It's gonna be a good crowd no matter what time and no matter the weather.
Andrew Hutchinson, the managing editor of Best of Arkansas Sports, joins us here on the game. I want to go back to the atmosphere part of things because I'm not going on the trip, unfortunately, but I know there's going to be a decent amount of K-State fans that will be there. I'm curious to know, does Arkansas have a seventh inning song?
No, they just they obviously sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" and then they call the hog. That's kind of their thing and. That's what they've been doing for as long as I can remember.
Well, the two fan bases, what they have in common is their own woo. Yours is calling the Hogs. Ours are the Ric Flair woo. As we close out some games, you may hear a few of those if K-State's doing well. So, want to fill in those fans that are traveling to Fayetteville, maybe some more what to know when they go. And I know these K-State fans are going to want to have a couple of cold ones while they're down there and have a good meal or two. Where is the place to go in Fayetteville to find that nightlife and have a good time?
Well, if you're looking for nightlife, Dixon Street is kind of the place where all the college kids go, and they've got all the bars and stuff like that. That's a good time. If you're looking for just good food, I mean they've got some eating options there, but a place I would highly recommend is Wright's Barbecue. So that they've got really, really good barbecue there. There's some other places. I know Hugo's is a really good eating spot, not too far from campus. Those are some places I would recommend. Although I will say, I mean, obviously, if they're driving down from Manhattan, Kansas, they're going to go through the area just north of Fayetteville, the Bentonville and Rogers area. Over the weekend was hit by a tornado, and there's some pretty significant damage in that area, so I would caution fans whenever they're looking into their plans on where to go eat and stuff like that to factor that in as well. Try to stay in the Fayetteville, Springdale area to avoid all that area that was hit really hard by the tornadoes.
All right, Andrew, one more quick question before I let you go. We mentioned the great environment there in Fayetteville. For the places you've traveled, either across the SEC or outside of the SEC, what's been your favorite environment that you've experienced?
Oh man, that's tough. I did get to experience a night game at Death Valley at LSU. That was awesome. Really good environment. Honestly, one that's maybe underrated is Mississippi State, Starkville. the football, like a football game there is awesome. The cowbells are incredibly loud. If you ever go down there, make sure to bring earplugs because your ears will be ringing afterwards. So that's always been really cool. I've got to cover a game at Rupp Arena, Kentucky basketball. That was really cool. And unfortunately, I haven't made too many trips for baseball. But Oklahoma State is a trip I've made. I'm sure Kansas State fans have made that trip. Being in the Big 12, that was a fun regional a couple of years ago in 2022. That new baseball stadium that they have down there is really nice. That was a fun time as well. So those are some that just kind of jumped out to me immediately. But really, if you go to any SEC venue on a Saturday in the fall for football, it's going to be really good.
Andrew, I hate to bring up a sour subject, but did you go to Omaha in 2018?
I was there. I covered the whole College World Series, all 2 weeks, and it turned into Fayetteville North. That was a really awesome environment. I know it didn't end like Arkansas fans had hoped, but that was an incredible run by an incredible team that ran into another incredible team and just had one unlucky play not go their way.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. I remember it very well. But if there's one thing I do know about Arkansas fans, and K-State fans would remember if you were there in 2013 when K-State hosted a regional, Arkansas was here, and Arkansas fans certainly showed up. But hopefully some K-State fans will be arriving today in Fayetteville. And Andrew, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Andrew Hutchinson from the best of Arkansas sports joining us here on The Game. Going back to what I just brought up there just a few seconds ago was the College World Series in 2018. If you don't remember what happened there, it was the final game, winner take all, Arkansas and Oregon State. And Arkansas, top of the ninth inning, they're up a run, was one strike away from winning the national championship. The Oregon State batter popped it up into foul territory. Two Razorbacks were there. It was the first baseman and the right fielder were coming into foul territory to make the grab. Well, all of a sudden, here comes the second baseman. Just kind of forces his way into the equation. And it just creates kind of like the Bermuda Triangle effect. The ball falls to the ground.
Yeah.
And then line drive into left field ties the game. That's followed up by a 2-run homer for Oregon State. One of the biggest heartbreak moments I think I've ever witnessed in sports, watching it live on TV, where you're one strike away from winning the national championship. Fly ball falls down.
Yeah.
You absolutely blow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
sports is pain.
I know it's not football or basketball, and I know baseball around here is not as big, but for those Arkansas fans who at that point had a little bit of success recently in football, but didn't get to like that national championship type of level. Crushed. As K-State fans, I think we can imagine would have been crushing. All right, let's take a break. Still to come, are the Royals doing okay? But when we come back, I want to take a look at the Big 12 slate in the first 3 weeks of the college football season. Week 2 is very interesting the way it breaks down. It's going to be a very good day for watching football. There's one game in particular that's married to a television network. Does not make sense. It seems really weird. And that's coming up next. Earlier today, and here in a few moments, we'll ask Troy the big question once again. Are the Royals doing okay? We're going by the okay standards. Because okay is better than trash for what's been the last 7 years or so. We found out earlier today K-State football's first 3 kickoff times for the upcoming 2024 season. Knew about the Arizona game, which is going to be coming up on September 13th, a Friday night at the Bill, 7 o'clock kick. It'll be televised on Fox. Well, week 1, the Cats will be at home at the Bill, August 31st, Saturday. UT Martin, 6 o'clock for that kickoff, ESPN+. It'll be televised. K-State on the road for week 2 on September 7th. At Tulane in New Orleans, Louisiana. And that game will be either on ESPN or ESPN2. But, of course, here on K-Man, be coverage of that game, which, of course, Power Cat Game Day will start 7 in the morning. So since we know that, the Big 12 has also announced pretty much every game, weeks 1 through 3, with other games scattered throughout the weeks after that. But weeks 1 through 3, we know kickoff times, and what channel they're going to be on. The Big 12 does not have any Week 0 games this year. So the Big 12 slate kicks off on Thursday, August 29th, with a 6 o'clock game. You have UCF hosting New Hampshire. The big one is Colorado, North Dakota State in Boulder, ESPN, for a 7 o'clock Central Time kick. KU hosting Lindenwood in Kansas City, and Utah taking on Southern Utah. So Colorado, North Dakota State will be super interesting. Friday, August 30th, TCU at Stanford. Interesting. There'll be half a crowd there. 9:30 Central Start Time, ESPN. And then that Saturday, a couple of interesting ball games. Penn State at West Virginia. Return game, West Virginia played there at night last year. And now the return game to Morgantown, and it's going to be a big noon kickoff on Fox. And West Virginia fans are like, oh, Penn State, afraid to play us.
Yeah, right.
At our place at night. Well, maybe Fox has something to do with that. Guys, you're getting the primetime Fox slot. Thought you'd be happy about that. Houston, UNLV. I think the real interesting game, though, and this time has actually not been announced yet, is Oklahoma State hosting South Dakota State. South Dakota State is the reigning defending national champions of the FCS, and you got the Big 12 runner-ups in Colorado State with a guy that running back's pretty good. He's pretty good. That'll be a pretty fun clash. And by the way, Max Standard, former defensive back for the Manhattan High, is going to be at South Dakota State. Week 2, I think, is going to be really fun. Week 2 for the Big 12 kicks off with BYU at SMU.
Okay.
Interesting clash there. You got the Latter-day Saints versus the Methodists. Okay. 6 o'clock kick, ESPN2. So here's the Saturday slate on September 7th. Your 11 a.m. window, of course, the Cats are playing against Tulane, but you also have Arkansas at Oklahoma State. That's an ABC game. Cincinnati hosting Pittsburgh. ESPN or ESPN2, so that's going to determine between those two where the Cats will play ESPN or ESPN2. Your 2:30 slot. Well, let's go to 6 o'clock first. Let's skip 2:30 because I want to come back to that. 6 o'clock window, KU at Illinois on FS1. Colorado at Nebraska on NBC. Oklahoma is also hosting Houston. Willie Fritz taking Houston into Norman for a 6:45 kick on the SEC network. You have the late window. Mississippi State at Arizona State on ESPN. Texas Tech at Washington State on Fox. That, to me, a lot of weird matchups for the non-conference slate, but I think that could be a lot of fun. Let me get back to the 2:30 slate. Baylor's at Utah. So there you have it, a Big 12 matchup. I don't know if that was planned ahead of time, for a non-conference game. I don't know how that works out. I don't know if it's conference or not. And then the funny one here, an interesting matchup here where it's going to be played. Iowa State at Iowa. That game will be on CBS. That feels weird.
I know.
Look at it this way. Down south, you got an old-timer, someone that doesn't pay attention to what's going on day-to-day in college football, the whole media rights story. He's expecting to sit down in his chair, pop the top on a Bud Heavy, maybe take one of the straps on the overalls down, and he's getting ready to relax on a Saturday afternoon because that's when the SEC plays its best game on CBS. Let's see if I can let's see if we can tee this up here. This afternoon from Iowa City. There's the red flags for this guy. Iowa State at Iowa for the Cy-Hawk Trophy right here. College football, Big Ten, CBS. That old farmer boy is going to take out a hand cannon and blast that television.
The minute you
The
said
liberals are taking over, you know?
Yeah.
the minute the communists are taking over.
There you go.
Yeah. The minute you said Iowa and Iowa State on CBS, I had to put my phone down and do a double take. What?
By the way,
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
By the way, to answer your question regarding Baylor, Utah, that is a non-conference.
So it is non-conference, okay. That'll still be pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. But week 2, I think, is going to be pretty fun. Am I wrong? I think Big 12 is going to be represented across the map when it comes to networks. That week alone, ESPN, Fox, ABC, ESPN2, CBS, NBC. Across the map, you'll have the Big 12 featured. Week 3, it's, it's all right. Arizona State, you got a Friday game like K-State, KU hosting UNLV in Kansas City. West Virginia at Pitt. West Virginia has the most interesting non-conference schedule because they're playing Penn State and Pitt in the same non-conference. That game, though, is going to be at Pitt, ESPN at 2:30 kickoff. Utah State, and obviously we'll go one direction. Colorado State. Obviously, Troy, I'm sure you're very interested in that one.
I am, just
Especially,
to see what the Rams are able to do. That's at Ramville, by the way.
Yes. And did Colorado State win that game last year? Was it like what happened?
That came down to the dirty hit on Hunter.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think Colorado won the game in overtime.
They did.
Now, I want to bring up a kickoff time that really had college football fans really been out of shape today. Now, this is not in the first 3 weeks. I don't have the date here. But it's the Red River rivalry. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma and Texas is not an 11 a.m. kick this year. It's at 2:30. It'll be on ABC. It's not at 11 a.m.
What?
And it really got people bent out of shape because they're like, well, this college football, this is a college football tradition, and it always kicks off at 11 a.m. Actually, over the last 15 years, it has. If you go back prior to the last 15 years, it was early to mid-afternoon every year. This was not an 11 a.m. kick until 15 years ago. And I don't know why, but historically, this has been a mid-afternoon kickoff. So if you want to talk about the rivalry, if you want to talk about history says a mid-afternoon kickoff makes more sense. So that's my response to everybody getting all upset about one game, not at one time. To me, a rivalry, the time the game kicks off doesn't really have to do a whole lot with the rivalry, if you ask me.
Here's the part of what I always...
Unless it just has something to do with the Cotton Bowl and being in Dallas. And
this is the part of it, though, that I always found just as a downright disingenuous argument. Oklahoma's number one reason for being upset at the Big 12 media package was because they got tired of being big noon Saturday on Fox. They got tired of the noon kickoffs, Eastern time, 11 a.m. And yet now they're complaining about the fact they've got a 2:30 kickoff for the Red River rivalry.
It's not just Oklahoma fans. It's not just Texas fans. It's like fans as a whole. It's like, what the hell is this?
But it was one of the most disingenuous arguments for Oklahoma to make because then they would turn around every year and play that game at noon. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, you don't like playing noon games, but you're perfectly fine with that one at noon?
I couldn't let it stand of college football fans like attacking the networks like they're saying like, I understand like, not everything's going to be ideal for sure, but they're not paying attention to college football history and they're not even taking into consideration. History says actually 2:30 makes more sense.
Sure. I don't disagree.
What doesn't make sense is playing on a Friday.
Also true. One of my things is I have always felt that Fox completely misplayed the big noon thing. Because to me, that's not the time that you want your prime game.
No, it's like
they were scared to go head to head with CBS.
Yeah, a big fight card. You don't put the big fight on before your mid card.
No, no. But Fox being Fox,
and it's also, and rarely is it anything, to the west of Kansas.
Also that,
so it's just I hear what you're saying. It's just putting the branding on Big Noon Kickoff. It is showcased as the big game of the weekend. And sometimes, of course, depending, just going on basically how they draft these games, that Fox does quite often get the big game of the weekend. I think where it gets silly is when College Game Day shows up and is at the same game.
Same place, yeah.
Yeah.
That's silly, but beyond that, it just showed how little they wanted to go head-to-head with the SEC.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's just, me from a programming standpoint, and as I look at it again, Oklahoma was so disingenuous arguing about those noon kickoffs. It was pathetic.
We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Troy answers the question, are the Royals doing okay after these words? Well, we're going to answer the big question here in about 15 seconds. Are the Royals doing okay? They did lose today 7-6 to the Twins. Made it interesting in the top of the ninth. They lose 3 of 4 in Minnesota. But Kansas City's just 3 games back of the Cleveland Guardians in the American League Central. Troy Coverdale. Are the Royals doing okay?
The Royals are doing fine. Let's be perfectly honest. I do not understand why Target Field is a house of horrors for this franchise right now. It is. But the fact that they put themselves in a position in 2 of the 4 games to rally back and make the Twins sweat a bit in the 9th inning, I'm okay with. 2 games that wound up being 7-6, and you had the tying run at the plate, today included.
What is it now, 16 of 18 they've now dropped?
16 of 18 it's going crazy. Back to last year there, yes.
It's crazy.
But you also have to remember the Twins were the division champs last year.
Correct.
So, take with that what you will. I think where I do have a bit of concern is that, yes, the losing streak grew to 3 before they pulled out the win yesterday. They've dropped 4 of 5 since the winning streak ended. They had a chance today to potentially build on a lead in the American League Central. That's fine. There's still a long ways to go. But it proves again that the bullpen has got to have some tweaks. There continues to be such a varied output from the bullpen. We talk about K-State trying to find answers at times with its pitching staff, and especially once you get past your starters. In the case of the Royals, that's definitely in play. They don't have anybody that makes you immediately go, when you hear that they're coming in the 9th inning. They don't perk your attention up. They kind of make you get a little concerned with some of the arms right now out of the bullpen because you don't know from a consistent basis what you're going to face, what an opponent is going to face. It could be an up day. It could be a down day. You almost wish that you could get 9 innings out of all of your starting pitchers the way that things have been going. Yes, they're still doing all right. Looking at baseball reference, they still have it as an 84% chance that the Royals make the playoffs.
I think for sure they're a wild card.
I think for sure that they're a wild card as well.
Guys, we're just in May. Hold your horses.
Yes, but they're
I feel like you're teasing me.
They're 8 over 500.
I'm in for a letdown.
Yeah, they're 8 over 500 right now. Let me double check that.
I mean, as big of a Royals fan that I am, I still have I can really be strung along, and you're stringing me along right now, I think.
Yeah, make that they're 13 over 500. They've had 2 lengthy winning streaks. They've beaten teams that they are supposed to beat, of late especially. And the starting pitching has held up to this point very well.
And they're going to have a nice stretch of home games coming up, and they have played great at the K this year.
True.
That's been a big reason why they've had a lot of success early on.
My next question, is Salvador Perez slowing down?
A bit. He did go through a stretch where he went 2.5 games without collecting a base knock, but he was still able to get on base in each of those games. So, yes, he's slowed down some. Some of that is also predicated on the upper part of the lineup hasn't given him as many chances to drive in runs as what they were doing earlier. So that's still a question mark. And it would be nice if MJ Melendez would figure out what he's doing at the plate. That is one concern I do have offensively.
See if I have anything else I want to ask. Any reports on Vinny Pasquantino? I think the last time that we really did a Royals segment, like Vinny was showing a sign of life.
Mm-hmm. And he has continued to play well. He did miss last night because of injury, but was back in the lineup today. And he was able to at least keep things moving in the ninth inning, but also clubbed a homer this afternoon.
Ah. Mm-hmm. Attaboy, Vinny. Well, Kansas City was up 4-0, and then Minnesota goes on a 7-0 run.
Yeah. But that's also a case. You had a spot start today for Daniel Lynch because Brady Singer came down sick before the game. So it's always a crapshoot what you're going to get in a spot start from a guy that you literally just called up if they're not prepared for it to be their day on the mound. And I don't think that Lynch was fully prepared for it to be his day.
The Royals are 35-23. Again, 3 games back in the Central. They'll start a 3-game series tomorrow night against the National League San Diego Padres.
By the way, just looking to the offing, the Yankees in 2 weeks.
San Diego's coming into town for 3. Royals back on the road in Cleveland.
Big series.
Yeah.
Followed by big series with the Yankees.
Seattle, then the Yankees.
True.
But at Kauffman Stadium.
And then you got the Dodgers in L.A. in 2 weekends.
So back-to-back. Home against the Yankees for 4, and then you're at 3 in L.A. against the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani, who's not pitching this year, right?
No, he's
Correct.
out. But you got Yamamoto, who is the next great Japanese wonderkin superstar, who everybody's high on. But, hey, I think Shota Imanaga of the Cubs is a little bit better, even though he struggled last night.
Boy, it's not going to be long from now. The Royals going to be in Colorado for 3, Troy.
I know.
3 easy wins?
Rockies are playing okay,
Rockies have been playing much better.
Oh.
And, in fact, part of the reason why the Royals were able to move into the first spot in the division was because the Rockies have gotten some wins against Cleveland.
Michael Waka will be on the Hill on Friday. Let's take our last break. And in 90 seconds, we will have Ask Us Anything to wrap it up next.
We're back on the game. News Radio KMAN. I'm AJ Shaw. Trey Coverdale. Mitch Fortner sit across the glass from me. Gentlemen, the question I have for you today is, if there's one place you could go to and spend the night there, what would it be?
That is a tough question.
I have a funny answer. I don't want to get myself in trouble, so I'll just go with a serious one.
The Spearmint Rhino does not work, no.
Well, apparently this particular establishment is no longer owned by this particular company since the boss had passed away. I'm throwing out a lot of hints there. So,
Yeah, the mansion.
I enjoy a good haunting, and I hear the Stanley Hotel is quite an adventure.
It is.
So I think that might be up there.
It is. It is a bit freaky to do that tour, by the way. I will admit that. And that's even in the daylight to do that tour. It's a little bit freaky. That's a good point, though. Yeah. Was I within the ballpark when I mentioned the mansion?
Not going to say.
Grounds that you will incriminate yourself, yes. Well played. You know what? The Sphere.
In Vegas?
Yes.
Keep you up all night. If it's on.
Well,
true.
Exactly. But it would be an intriguing... It would be intriguing.
Rent it out like an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Cost you $100,000.
I mean, I wouldn't do it so much for the Fish concert, but, someone else that's coming in would be interesting.
Also,
be different.
Kind of get a little weirder here. Maybe not weird, but thinking outside the box. What about like the International Space Station? If I had the opportunity to go to space, I would absolutely do it.
I want nothing to do with the amount of gravity pulling on my body to get me there.
Oh, the G-force?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, listen, there is a ride at Disney World that may get you prepared for that. You know, I've done it many times. And
Yeah, I know. Vomit Comet, I get it, but not my scene.
I'll go quick. It's kind of a basic one, but the Lincoln bedroom at the White House. Because if I'm going to spend the night somewhere, it might as well be in a bedroom.
If you've got enough donation money, that can be taken care of.
Yes.
Under certain presidents, especially.
But are there plugs in there? Can you charge your phone?
Right.
What if you want to watch TV?
Hey, Joe Biden, I'll send you as much money so I can spend the night there.
Yeah, that was infamous under the Clintons.
Well, your family may have it. I don't know. All right, that'll wrap up the show. For a full 2 hours tomorrow, 4 to 6. AJ, Troy, and Mitch, go Cats.